Powered by Riverside.
Welcome back to You Know What I Like
Theater.
And you might notice we're filming our episodes a little out of order so that both Glenn and I can talk about all the shows that we've seen together. So today we're going to talk about a Shakespeare show we saw together just last night.
Yes.
We're caught up, baby. So, this is brand new to either one of us. This is another one that I think came across in an Instagram ad to me called Endstation Theatre. Endstation. Endstation. So don't know what that means. my impeccable research strikes again. But it's Endstation Theatre. We saw it July 24th at 7:30 p.m. at what is called Point of Honor. It is an old plantation, and I think in the speech prior to the show, they said one of the reasons why they do this show here is because it's supposed to heal the tragedies or the inequities or whatever happened in the town of Lynchburg and at this location. So they're trying to create new memories, better memories, more equity, all that stuff. So yeah, we've had that experience doing outdoor Shakespeare. We were at Smithfield Plantation in Southwest Virginia. So it's kind of a thing now. We like to bring things with very low overhead and low rights costs like Shakespeare to locations that have modern adapted stories, diverse casts, better messaging. So was really intrigued by it, really liked it, was excited to go. I think it sounded far when we're like, oh my gosh, this is a whole separate city with whole separate colleges. And I think I was a little bit against it at first. And then I think when we did the logistics, we're like, oh, it's about an hour away, maybe an hour, 30 minutes. That's not too bad. There's kind of two lanes of traffic that parallel Charlottesville. One is 29, the other one is 64. So it was really easy to get down there. So we had a very long day. We had to get up at 5:30, go to our jobs at the hospital, and then I think things kind of got held up, and so we had previously intended we'll leave work early, get ready, get food, and then leave. And then we ended up like buying food, taking it with us, and just hopping in the car and going. But it worked out. We showed up there around 6:30. We familiarized ourselves with the place, went to the bathroom, picked our seats, blah blah, whatever was fine. But the cost was, I will get into this, a little bit more expensive, but I will tell you my pros and cons about that later in our wonderfully adhered to and systematic format, which we never deviate from or have any ancillary tales about. But it was $90 for 2 adults, but parking was free. We did get a little confused trying to drive around and figure out where to go because the directions on my Apple Maps versus like the signs that my eyes were seeing were telling me two different things. So we got there, we got parked, took a bunch of pictures because it's on like the top of a hill. I guess that's why it's called Point of Honor. But yeah, really interesting, really beautiful. The show was The Merry Wives of Windsor, retitled to The Merry Wives of Lynchburg because the director also, I guess, adapted the play. Did their own cuts and did their own adaptations for it to take place in a 1960s hotel.
Yes.
So yeah, I said a 1960s set adaptation to make it more local to the town of Lynchburg and relevant to the people and lives of Central Virginia.
Yes. And with according to the director's note in the program, a strong influence of 1960s sitcom in the aesthetics and in the sort of portrayal of the characters.
Yeah. So I think we couldn't really figure this out. So when I say part of Randolph College, I don't think it is necessarily it is Randolph College, but it
Hmm.
seems to be a large affiliation of their performers, their MFA program, and it did say Endstation Theatre, a subsidiary, something of Randolph College.
Yeah.
So I think when I say part of Randolph College, it's just an affiliation with it, but it is not like the drama program, if that makes sense.
Right.
I don't think it's a student activity, but I don't think it is a requirement for drama majors or MFA, whatever. But it does say
It's
there's an
like it's an
affiliation.
yeah. It's sort of like its own thing, but it is very strongly associated with and affiliated with the drama program there.
Yeah, and it's a wide variety of ages. So it's like
Mhm.
not a whole bunch of college kids. There are, of course, younger college age kids, but there were grown adults. I mean, like
Yeah.
there there's a gentleman there with salt and pepper hair, and so I just feel like this is a big community connected thing. They had a huge sponsorship from the parks department, and that's how they were able to perform here, and so
Mhm.
it's a very big community thing.
Yeah. And
So
if we're getting the affiliation between Randolph College and Endstation Theatre wrong, and you're familiar with it, and you can correct us, that's what the comments section is for. We're always willing to learn from the comments.
yes, absolutely. But it is an outdoor summer theater with local talent. There seems to be a mix of students, community members, a bunch of different types of people supporting this theater and the work that they do. You must bring your own chair, blanket, food with you to see the show. They did have some refreshments there. They had beer and soda and like little chips and stuff like that. So they did have some things there. And I'll be honest, I was like, this is just a suggestion. We just saw, 4 county players. They had chairs, but you could also bring field chairs and blah, blah, blah. So I will let you know we grabbed a poncho that we used to walk across campus. We put it on the ground and we sat on the ground and we made do. But it's one of these things that we said, I hope somebody likes our podcast because maybe we could say fund us chairs for outdoor theater
Yes.
and we'll write whatever name you say on our chairs funded by, Poop Master 5000. I don't care. If you sponsor a chair, we will put your name on the chair and we will say thank you to our patrons for funding our outdoor field chairs because, I don't know if you can tell from looking at us, we're not big tailgaters. We don't really have like big field chair energy. We don't really have a yard where we would put a field chair. So it's just not ever something we had. But now that we've done a lot of these, we're like, I hope you like us enough to help us buy 2 field chairs that we can go see outdoor theater with. And we will take a silver Sharpie and write your name on it. We're just like, oh, please let this do well enough that people can fund chairs for us.
Yes.
So we survived, but they are very, very serious on the bring your own chair blanket because literally we walked past the gift shop and they had some fold out chairs, but I'm like, that's probably for indoor weddings. That's probably not for this. They probably have a rule or a reason of why I cannot go into the gift shop and steal a chair.
Yes.
Um, They also said that they have resources available to anyone requiring disability assistance, including a nearby drop off area, and they will provide seating for people in like wheelchairs or walkers or stuff like that. So clearly, we were able bodied. We did not need special exceptions, but they did say if you call ahead and say, hey, I'm disabled, I really want to see the show and I can't do anything else, they will do that for you. We did not make that request. So we had to reschedule our initial tickets twice because we wanted to
Mhm.
go on the 12th and it rained. And so then I changed it to the 17th. And then we had the wildfires.
Yeah.
So this was our third show. And we'll get into this, but it's like I think the show ends this weekend. And
Yes.
so we have a lot of other things going on, but I don't know if we're going to be able to see the show. We'll get into the reason why that is either.
Yeah.
Um, so what I will just say is they've had a really rough time. There's been a lot of outdoor rain. They've canceled 2 or 3 times just on their own. But I can just tell you the box office staff, I've talked to several different people and making sure that we could honor our tickets because I wanted to buy paper tickets. A lot of people don't do paper tickets anymore. And I wanted something for my scrapbook. So I bought paper tickets. They still said the 12th, but every single time the box office just said, just come, we'll honor them. please don't worry about that. We just want anybody to come see the show who've seen the show. And I know you're probably like, Brie, you just said they were $90. Of course they should do that. Well, every theater is a little different, and I would not
Yeah.
blame them if there was reticketing fees or, hey, you have to understand we're just a small little group. But I will be honest, like, it could not have been easier. Everybody fully understood. I think if I just said, like, I wasn't feeling well and I wanted to change it, they would have done it for even a less extreme reason than weather. But could not be more accommodating, could not be easier. We're more confident that we're going to drive an hour and be able to see the show. So
Yeah.
big ups to their box office. And I do know that their box office was affiliated with Randolph College, because when I was looking up people on the program, one of the guys I talked to was like the director of something. So I was like, clearly they have some assistance there.
Yeah. And, well, we're going to get into pros and cons. I'm not going to jump the gun on this. So, but,
Are you ready to start with pros? Do you want to start?
sure. And I will continue on from what you were just saying. When we got there, just some of the friendliest people we've interacted with, and we've interacted with some really friendly people. But they were very welcoming. They were very happy to see us there. Very, very, I would say, thrilled to see us there. Um, Very helpful, pointing out where everything was, all the facilities were for us, and just an absolute delight to interact with.
Yeah, and people were like pulling double duty too, because you could see
Yeah,
people kind of in costume, but also selling beer or, whatever it was. So it just really felt like a very, I like to say the Mickey and Judy moment. It really was like, hey, we're just all putting on a show. We're really excited. We really love it. Like I said, I actually got confused where the bathrooms were, and I used a porta potty, and that is like not their fault at all. They told me directly where to go, but I literally was like, well, surely I can't use the gift shop because that's where the actors are changing. They don't want audience to interact. But no, I mean, honestly, if there was an actor and they saw you, they would say welcome. People at the box office table were happy to talk with you. I mean, like, I fully agree. I was like, it was user error. It was not due to anybody who was there. Everybody there was incredibly nice and very helpful about where to go and what to do. Like, there wasn't big signage or anything like that, but like you felt really confident of what you're supposed to be doing. It was literally just me being like, no, they don't want me going in the building. I'm not an actor. They told me what to do. I just didn't believe them.
yes.
And even the
As
porta potty was nice. I don't know whose porta potty was, but it was very nice. The hand soap was really nice. It didn't smell bad. So it was probably there for the construction team, but it was nice enough that I honestly thought it was for me because, again, we just went to Barbers for a Vineyard where there's porta potties. So I thought, of
yeah,
course, it's porta potties.
yes. And it is and departure from your usual method of operation, which is, well, I may not be in the show, but I am still an actor. I'm allowed to go where the actors go.
Yeah, so I was like with opera, I was ready to get up on stage and sing. So
Yes,
I'm trying to be more humble.
yes.
Well, along that same vein, my first comment was the actors were very good and they were all mic'd, which I liked because,
hmm
even if you are a good projector, there are reasons why you need to be mic'd. And so each actor, big part or small part, was really good that they were mic'd. They were, they made an announcement. We're playing multiple parts. So if you're confused, we had a little note here in the program, but we promise you'll be able to keep up with us. And we try to make all the characters really different. And this was the show where I'm like, I love a secret musical. I love a secret musical because they really focused on all of those really fun 1960s songs, and the way that they did the edit and the way that they picked the songs really fit in well together. And they had like a little pre-show that started around like 6:40, I think.
hmm
I was like doing my social media posts and I looked up and they sang, what is it, almost like 5 or 6 songs
Yeah,
of basically representing all the different characters. So you wouldn't get to meet the characters until later, but then when you met the characters, like, oh, that was this guy that's saying this thing, and that's why it fits in because he's lovelorn, or oh, because they're sneaky, or whatever it was. And so it
yeah.
was really kind of a fun introduction to the cast and introduction to the show, and you got to see everybody in costume. And then a lot of the actors also played double duty with playing instruments, which was also really cool.
Yeah. And a good mixture as well of, you watch these actors come out and they sing a song and then they turn around and take over the drums and take over the keyboard for the next actors to come out and do their song. And
Yeah,
it,
so
it,
like
it
triple threats all around.
yeah. And it had that real feel of like, we're watching a show put on by show people who are ready to entertain.
Yes. Yeah, and I also said, I like the adaptation. One of my favorite adaptations of Merry Wives was the African hairdresser take that they did in Shakespeare in the Park. So, I already had a favorite version of this, and I was so excited because of what they said the adaptation was going to be, and because of the music, and you read the director's note, and she had such a clear vision. So I said I called it the Monkeys meets Faulty Towers, but it was really amazing. Fantastic clowning, fantastic singing, fantastic acting. I mean, so good.
Yeah.
I think in that vein as well, I put costumes, prop, and tech elements were all excellent. They had like a old beach set, like
Hmm.
two dining room things with the umbrella and a lounge and historical luggage carts. I think
Very,
Mrs. Quickly I loved, with she looked
mhm.
like Phyllis Diller.
Yes, very, very 60s appropriate luxury beach resort kind of setup.
Yes, and all of the bellhops had on the Beatles mop,
Hmm.
whether they looked a little bit more kind of like, blonde surfer, or, the true kind of shaggy, and that's why I think it was really
Yeah.
reminiscent of the Monkees to me.
All
So,
right.
so fantastic to look at, fantastic to hear. I said the backdrop was stunning. It was a very nice location, and the drive was pretty straightforward from Charlottesville. I think that, one of the things that we regretted once we got there, even though it was like about an hour long drive and pretty straightforward, I had mentioned I had done this drive a lot through my job doing research, and I'd have to drive out to Danville like 3 or 4 times a year. And so I said, oh, it's half that. It's not too bad. And like, we never really got to the part of like the Lynchburg exchange where you had to go by the airport and by Liberty University. Like, it was kind of like the very farthest first thing you could get at Lynchburg. Um, so my whole thing is like, we left at 5:30 and we got there around 6:30, and that was amazing and fantastic. And then I think when we were held at an intermission, I turned to Glenn and I said, how about if I look at hotels? Like, the show's going to get out at probably 10. That means we'll be home at 11. I don't know how we're going to feel because we were at work all day. Glenn's like, oh, no, I could drive. And I think when we got home, you were like, we could have probably stayed at a hotel. And there was a lot of local hotels for like 50, $60 a night. So we said, if we were to do this again in the future, which I think we're planning on doing that, despite, I said, oh, it's
Yeah.
$90 for two people. It just was such like a fun experience and a fun environment that, like, if the weather holds out, we can come for their Christmas show. Maybe we'll go ahead, if it's another Friday night like this or Thursday night, we'll come down, we'll get a hotel, and we'll drive back super duper early in the morning, just for convenience, not because it was difficult, just because, like,
Yeah.
take a night of it, have a little bit more fun, be able to like relax a little before you go out, talk about the show, do all that kind of fun stuff. Because I really feel like going home on 29, it was just like we really had to focus because it was very dark and it was raining a little, and.
Yeah. And I feel like that is, like you were saying, it's a very straightforward drive. It's not a lot of twists and turns to get to where you're going. But a lot of it is through country roads with not a whole lot of lighting along there. So you're kind of driving along and it's pitch black around you, and suddenly it's also pitch black, but you can see that you are surrounded by trees. And you're just driving along going, wow, I know what the speed limit is here, but I also really, really don't want to overdrive my headlights out here.
Yeah, and like 29 north to us is like you're headed towards like DC, right?
Hmm.
29 south, you're headed towards Danville. And so
Yeah.
those are very two different cities.
Hmm.
Danville, I would relate a lot to Bristol, where the big draw now is the casino, but it used to be this huge tobacco plant. Like that's what you did. So it's like I have such a fondness in my heart for these types of cities because Pittsburgh was very much like that, but Pittsburgh was so huge that it really recovered post steel into like being a huge city for other reasons.
Yeah.
But like Bristol being the capital of country music and Danville being this capital of tobacco production, they've really had to struggle with like we're still relevant, but now we're going to have a museum, we're going to have a casino, and so it's a very different experience of like recovery. And they do have these like amazing little like bookstores and crystal shops and theaters and coffee and like there's amazing things to do in these little towns, but it is so different than you're going to DC. So like as we kind of talked about when we were coming out of Barboursville Vineyards, I was so happy to see 29 there because even though you have this gap between Charlottesville and Richmond and DC, it's so much more lit up. There's $1 Million Generals, there's Food Lions, there are shops. Like it is apartments and shops and nothing else. And
Hmm.
as you're kind of coming back on 29 South into Charlottesville, you have roadside farm stands, you have a Hardee's, you might have an apartment complex that students live at. I mean, it's a very different experience despite it being the same road.
Yeah. And it's very in the dark, it can feel very nerve-wracking, but honestly, it is still largely a straight shot. It's just, and one of the things that I'll say about the city of Lynchburg, which is where the show was, is that it's fascinating on the approach because you're kind of going through all of these areas and you're like, oh, here's this tiny little rural community, and I'm seeing like a little pocket of houses here and there's business over here, and there's a church down the road a bit. And then you just come over this hill, and suddenly there's a city skyline.
Yeah, city on a hill.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, okay. I guess I guess this isn't just little pockets of like a house here and a little business here. It's like there's an actual city here. Okay. Completely missed it up until right now.
Yeah, it's like you go over the bridge into the river, and I think we saw like the Academy Theater for the Arts for youth art
Hmm.
engagement, and there's all these banners. And I was like, this does remind me a lot of Danville as well, where it's just like there's these little, I guess when they started villages that started to be connected by waterways and railroads and stuff like that. And so they are just kind of like hidden in like what I think otherwise would have been a little holler if everybody else didn't decide, hey, I also want to live here. And they grew into this huge hidden city.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
So, and this, like, I'll talk about one more quick pro before we kind of move on to it. Glenn and I were a part of a group called Open Air Shakespeare that we did a lot of stuff. And I said, this really reminded me of that. It gave me some fond memories about working with Kayla and Jay Huckle and kind of all of our friends that would do Shakespeare with us and have to figure out how to get from one little place to another little place and utilize resources and be in these historic places. So, it was a little bit like, oh, my little heart
Yeah.
was warmed. It's like people are still chugging along and doing these things.
Yes, felt a little bit like coming home, even though we'd never been there before.
Yeah, it was great. Now I have it's a pro and a con. I
Yeah.
put it in pro section, but I think it's going to go into our first point. So, the big reveal is the show
Yes.
got rained out
Yeah.
around 7:45, maybe
Hmm.
7:50. Like they got through a lot of Act One.
Hmm.
And I told Glenn, I said, I feel like they laid the punchline. They laid all the groundwork for the punchline, and then they couldn't end the joke
Yeah.
because they're like, here's all the characters, and here's why they're here, and here's the thing that's going to cause the problem. And then the letters just got delivered,
Hmm.
and the one lady read her letter, and then we were called due to rain, and they said we have to wait for 30 minutes to see if the rain's going to stop. And I was like, oh no, the
Yeah.
hijinks were just about to ensue.
Yes.
So I said the show got rained out, but I felt they handled it really well and made the right call. We
Hmm.
all hid under shelter for about 30 minutes. The actors were so nice. They all said goodbye and thank you for coming. The technicians and the box office attendants were so nice. And we were actually told, hey, we know you rescheduled a lot because of weather. Feel free to come back for any future performance. You could do so for free. We'll remember who you are. Don't worry about it. Like, we're not going to hassle you about it. You don't have to rebook. You don't have to lose your seats. And I kind of explained, I was like, well, that's hard for us because we booked shows, every single
Yeah.
weekend until August. And I don't know if we're going to be able to come back. And they're like, well, if you can, just don't call the box office, just show up. And so we're like, that was fantastic. And I said, I think it's going to be hard because it ends this weekend, but because maybe they canceled so many shows and it's not a licensed play, I don't know if they'll extend it. This was not
Yeah.
something that was promised us by guarantee or anything like that, but I'm just like, if they do extend it, they're one of the rare places that do shows Wednesday through Sunday. So maybe we'll try again. I think we would definitely try a Thursday or a Friday again if we could. But anyway, like I said, we were just really kind of impressed that even though there wasn't a lot of like previous well, read these directions and make sure you know this. Like, I mean, they had such a sense of authority and direction that like we felt well taken care of. We felt like they were making the right calls. And I think one of the funnier experiences was one of the box office girls was like, hey, if you got too wet, we have shirts for sale. And I think like 4 or 5 of us all bought a shirt.
Yes. And she was like, I'm going to have to tell people that I sold so many shirts.
And then when we said, oh, can you go back and look for a different size? The one girl's like, oh, go back into the AC. Oh, you don't have to tell me twice. And we were just like, great. I mean, nothing was an inconvenience. Nothing was a hassle. Everybody was just so happy to be there. And I said, my heart just broke because I said, as an actor, you don't come early and warm up and get dressed and prepare and start the show. Just be like, great, shift's over early. Now I get to go home and have a night at home watching HBO Max. I mean, it
Yeah.
just really broke my heart because you could tell everybody there was so in love with what they were doing. You wanted to be able to see them do it. And you're just like, oh man.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing about outdoor theater is that it is at the whim of the elements, but they really did handle it very well in terms of being like, well, we're going to wait and see if it clears up, then we can go back to do the show. And they came back and they were like, look, the rain is not as bad as it was. It might be about to clear up, but at this point, like the rocks and the pavement and everything that this show is staged on are slippery, and the hillside that you guys are sitting on is wet now. They're like, this, even if the rain clears up within the next, few minutes or so, they're like, it's going to be dangerous for us to put on the rest of this show. So for the safety of the audience and the performers, we're going to have to call it here. And
Yeah.
that's a hard decision to make, but it was the right decision to make.
And we all applauded and we all had shirts and we took home drinks. And so it was one of these experiences where we're like, as much as I'm going to sit here and say, like, we have had better deals on stuff. I could not be mad at giving this group money only because I'm like, you could tell it is just a little group of guys. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if Charlottesville Opera asked me for $90, I might hem and haw a little bit. I'm like, you have big donors and you're in the Paramount or, stuff like that. But for the ticket prices being as high as they were, I do wish they were a little more subsidized. But I'm also like, these are just people trying their best. I
Yeah.
don't think they're being dishonest about what things cost. I think that it showed really in the value of what they looked like, all this other stuff that kind of like came in to play with it. But it is one of these things where it's like, I hope you guys stick with it. Hope you guys continue. I hope you guys get better funders so that the ticket prices can go down. But I mean, like, be it that we were willing to buy shirts because they got rained out, kind of showed how much goodwill they engendered in a small amount of time, because you're just like, yeah, this was an expensive thing to miss out on, but it's not your fault. You guys are doing your best and you seem like nice people, and I hope you do this next year.
Yeah. And it really was a very good experience that, like, I would go back anytime to see a show from them.
Yeah. Even though
Uh,
we're talking about going in Christmas when it might be snowing.
yes. Like you said earlier, I would probably consider getting a hotel somewhere along the way. But yeah, I would definitely go.
Yeah. So that's kind of all the pros, and that's why I said my little pro leading into a
Yeah.
con. I have a few cons, but I think I've kind of hinted at a lot of them. Do you have
Yeah.
any more pros before we move on?
No, let's move on. I
Yeah,
think it
yeah. I
we
mean, like
covered
once
it.
you get like everybody was nice and sang really well, you know.
Yeah. And and they did the right thing by their audience and their performers. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, where are we going to find cons in this? But we are going to find cons in this.
yeah. Now it's like nobody died, but
Yes.
so again, I said it was not too bad to get to, but this was not the theater company's fault or anybody involved with it. Just be aware, your GPS might be a little funky.
Yeah.
And it's only due to the fact that because this is a historical preservation site, there were certain one ways and it was really kind of hard to figure it out. We just looped around a couple times and we saw where other people parked. It was not a big deal. But I mean, like I said, if I'm going to make comments about everything negative that happened in the experience, I'm going to say, like, watch out for your GPS. I would say if you can see the point of honor signs, follow those and not the GPS. But, we got there. It was fine.
Yeah.
I said the weather really sucked this year, be it that we had to like change tickets so many times. I do wish that they had an indoor contingency plan, but I do understand how hard it is. Like when we worked with Smithfield, it was nothing personal. We were really lucky that we got to perform under an awning. And we did
Mm-hmm.
have a day during Taming of the Shrew that I think it rained pretty bad. They were still able to continue because the audience was under the awning and we performed most of the action. But you, as an actor, I know your entrances and exit had to get wet.
Yeah.
So it's still one of these things like I wish, like I think when we were sitting there waiting for the rain to clear up, I was like, could you just do an abridged version while we all sit behind the box office? Because I was like, I just feel bad. Like I wanted to see the show. I wanted the performers to perform. And I don't know if Point of Honor had a stipulation in their contract that's like, no, you can't go on the porch. No, you can't go inside. No, you can't perform under this. I don't know, so I
Yeah.
can't really fault them for it. But if I am going to say criticism, it would have been nice to have a weather contingency so that something could happen. But seeing half the show, was better than not seeing any part of the show, and having the right safety call happen was the right thing to do. Um, so yeah, I was like, I don't know what else to say about it aside from like, if there are these problems in the future, if there could be something so that the show would go on, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But, things are what they are, and I don't know what is permitted at a historical site, but I do know that they're pretty strict and regulated.
Yeah.
I said they are not kidding when they said bring your own chairs.
Yes.
4 county players said it was a suggestion kind of thing, and then they provided chairs, but they were not kidding. That was on me. Again, like when I thought a show started at 7:30 and then started at 7. This was a fully at Bree's fault. Lay this at my feet. I mean, I think everybody was really nice at like speaking to us and everything. I think we were one of the few people who were like sitting on a picnic blanket on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the actors accommodated to us and involved us and
Yeah.
were very wonderful. But it was still one of these things like, yeah, we need to get this podcast more popular so we can afford field chairs.
Yes. Well, and I'll mention as well, part of sitting on the ground on a poncho / picnic blanket, however you want to refer to it, is that we were sitting there, and the venue, the stage area was on a hill, so we were facing uphill toward them. And when you are people who did not bring field chairs, which again, that's totally on us, not on them, they let us know. But it means that you have to lean uphill in order to sit there. So you get one heck of a core workout. And in fact, when it started raining and they called it and they said, get to you can take shelter over there. Bree was like, okay, do you need help getting up? And I was like, nope, both of my legs have gone to sleep. I was like, I am going to sit here for a second and get circulation back, and then I will follow you. You go on ahead and get dry.
Yep, so I grabbed all the phones and the programs. Luckily,
Yes.
we both brought an umbrella.
Yeah.
So again, in my last con, and even though I think I talked about this a lot, so I'll go quickly, was it's a bit more expensive than what I think we've gotten from other experiences. So I think if you count the tickets for $90, we invested the time and the gas to get there and get back. We did spend an extra $31 on t-shirts and drinks. So I said, so that was about overall $120. So I said,
Yeah.
going by my own metrics, I can't sit there and say, wow, this was super duper affordable. Wow, we got such a great value for it. I will say, I think it costs what it costs.
Yeah.
I think this kind of has to go in the same bucket as Virginia Theater Festival. I don't think they're overcharging people. I don't think anybody's making any money off of this. I don't think there's like insider trading or embezzling or a Ponzi scheme. I think it costs what it costs. I think that whatever agreements they entered into, whatever money they had to pay for stuff, I think they were working on the bare bones operating budget.
Yeah, it's not a great deal, but it's a fair deal.
Yeah, and nobody said you had to buy shirts or drinks or anything like that.
Mhm.
So, like, our ticket price went up a lot because we bought $12 shirts, right?
Yeah.
So, I feel like, is it the world's best deal? No. Would we go back again? Yes.
Mhm.
But I do want to, like, kind of mention that where it's like, I think if you're local to Lynchburg, you could do a lot of things that would make it more worth your time. I didn't recognize I bought premium circle seating, and they said, oh, you could have bought normal standard seating and sit further back. So, I mean, there was some things that's like, I think I just did, and I didn't realize that I made it more expensive. Um, so I will say, I do think if you are local to Lynchburg, I think if you buy the standard seats, if you remember to bring a field chair, if you bring your own snacks, like you could definitely make it a very affordable experience. I think we splurged a little at a one-time opportunity. We made it a bit more of like a destination trip for us. So for us, I don't think I would say, oh, it wasn't worth it. I think we'd say it was worth it, but I do think you have to be kind of cautious that it's very easy to rack up a lot of expenditures. But like I said, I couldn't really help it because I was just like, oh, I just want them to do a good job. I just want them to be able to do another show. So I think like
Yeah.
spending $120 plus time and gas, I don't think it's going to be worth it for everybody. But I do think, like, for us, I would love to see another show there. I would love to see them win. I would love to see them not stuck in the rain. I'd love to see another Shakespeare with a fun adaptation. So overall, I consider it an absolute win. But
Yeah.
it does kind of go in my bucket as Virginia Theater Festival, where it's like, oh, I want to be able to say, this is too expensive. You shouldn't waste your money. But I was like, I do think you should waste your money. I think that these are hardworking performers who did a great job. I just think that inflation is hard. And I
Yeah.
think that things cost what they cost. And so I can't fault them. But I will say, like, there were definitely some other venues and some other ticket prices where it's a no brainer. It's half as much. We had equally good of a time. So this one is more on my high end side, but I still would go back. And like I said, we were talking about trying to go see their Christmas show. We talked about missing out on their Fringe Festival that just happened in
Mhm.
June. So I think that there was a lot of things out there that we were already interested in making a connection and seeing more things from, knowing that the drive was an hour away and we could maybe like work out some other negotiations to see some other shows. But it is a higher end show from, my personal metric system.
Yeah. All right. So that's pretty much our entire list of cons there, isn't it?
Yeah, do you have anything else to add?
No, I did not. I had a great time. Like I said, the drive back was a little bit adrenaline spiking, but for that wasn't their fault at all. Uh, it was the other cars that were to blame. Um, but yeah, I had a great time doing it, and I would 100% go out and do it again, even with the possibility of a show getting rained out. I would, in a heartbeat, be like, yeah, let's go try that.
Yeah, and like I'll be honest, I was so impressed at how accessible the whole team was.
Yeah.
Like I said, both when I would call them on the phone or send them an email or whatever, and then also in person. Um, it's not always safe or right for every single theatrical production staff or actors or company to do that, but it was a really nice, pleasant surprise for this group.
Yeah.
And it really worked for them. Like I said, that's why I'm so in their corner. Is like you
Yes.
just see so much of yourself in them, and you're like, I want you to do well. I want you to be successful. This is worth doing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, so what have
You
we
want to
got
talk about
to?
what's coming up next?
Yeah, let's talk about what's coming up next.
I feel bad. I think I have tired you out for this recording session. If you guys have noticed, we tend to record 2 a day, and this weekend we're recording 4 a day. So I am putting Glenn through their paces. Not only am I making them see these multiple hour shows that I'm saying, hey, we don't have any time. Let's record and record and record. So if we're a little low
Yes.
energy, you're just gonna have to forgive us.
Yes, I'm an old man.
But we're kind of lucky because the next two shows are the shows we're seeing today and tomorrow. So, as I said, the podcast and the vlogcast are getting spread out a little bit. So, in your time, this will be very much in the past. But for us, we are actively seeing another Shakespeare. So, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
go to the American Shakespeare Center later, which is why we are so fancy. We're going to the Forest of Arden for As
Mm-hmm.
You Like It, one of my favorite shows and ones that I have always wanted to direct and have not had the opportunity to do so yet. So if you want to know about all my opinions about how I would direct this show, just know it's very Bollywood inspired and I would very much like to do it. It's like sci-fi fantasy Bollywood.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm the right person who should direct the show, but I want to do it. And I would cast all the right people and involve a very good production team. I still think it's a good idea. I
Yeah,
love
there you
Bollywood
go.
musicals myself, so I just feel like As You Like It is very the type of show you need to do this for because it's circus and fantasy and forest and I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it would be amazing. So we're gonna go see that. I also
Mm-hmm.
bought a little tag on surprise. So we'll get into that at our next recording after we've seen the show.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been to American Shakespeare Center, but I hear it is like one of a seminal point of a theater performer child's life here in Virginia. I grew up in Texas and Pennsylvania, so I didn't know about American Shakespeare Center until I moved here as an adult. But I was like, I told Glenn, I'm not worried about parking because every single child in Virginia seems to go here.
Yeah. Like, yeah,
So
it's
we're
kind
gonna
of a big deal.
Yeah. And like I feel like I stole a lot of their copy from their website, but I'm like, you'll know where this place is because if they've ever done a Shakespeare thing on PBS, they've come here. They either go to
Yes.
the Folger in DC or they come here. So I feel like it's gonna be something you might be familiar with even if you've never been.
Mm-hmm.
So American Shakespeare Center today, and tomorrow we're gonna go see a musical in Richmond,
Ooh.
which was referred by my friend, Miss Kelly Brown Johnson, who we've also known since we've all gone to school at Virginia Tech.
Yes.
So
All
yeah,
right.
so we got lots of new shows coming up. We got 2 more weekends of shows we got to do. Hopefully we'll get the few shows that we've been able to see and recorded. And now that we got some shows on the hopper, we won't be so late at posting stuff. I think we're probably going to be fairly late at making the post that I was supposed to get up today because we've been busy
Yeah.
seeing shows and being in shows. But yeah, thank you for attending yet another podcast of You Know What I Like Theater.
Theater.
And we can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you for joining us. And we hope we have introduced you to your new favorite thing. Please like and
Yes.
subscribe, make conversation with us. Would you buy us some field chairs? Are we worth investment in outdoor theater field chairs? How much would you like to donate to that? We'll take $1.
Yes, yes.
Like I said, we're not going to make anybody give us free tickets to shows, but we will ask our
Eh,
audience, would you like us to not sit on the floor? Would you
next
invest
year
so
we're
that we
gonna
have
be
a chair with your name on it? Like other theaters do that, we will put your name on a chair and we will carry it to any outdoor performance venue.
yes. Next year we're gonna be posting socials of, hey, we're out here, we're back at Point of Honor, and this time we brought chairs. Thanks, BetterHelp.
See, I was going to be like Miss Pink Kitty 69. I will take look, I'm not Facebook. You can tell me what name you want on that chair.
Yes.
If you funded the chair, we will put it on there.
Yes.
That is the nature of being a patron of the arts. All right.
All right.
We love you. I got to get Glenn into some coffee.
Yes. All right. See you guys later. Bye.